Hey guys, this is day one of the LHSA State Championships. I'm joined by Alex Allison. He is going to be my day one partner here. Of course, we talked about a lot on Ballin the Boo on our show about the state championships. And Alex, hopefully you enjoyed your first day, your first glimpse of being on the field in the Superdome. I'm sure it's kind of eerie just being on the Superdome floor after all these games are over. But you were here for all three games. I was just getting here after the first game. So just overall thoughts on today.
Yeah, I mean, this was a blast. You know, I think we have a good name for like this Bullet in the Boot kind of special here. We're delirious in the dome after each of these days. You know, this is a long day. We're exhausted. I'm very exhausted. Jace has to do two more of these. I don't know how he's possibly going to do it, but he's a trooper for that. I want to take about a 12-hour nap and then wake up and then take another 12-hour nap. But yeah, no, this was amazing. I loved it. Loved the experience. This was absolutely a blast. And we got three really good games. So that was the big thing that I was really happy to see, because I think going into it there was some worry that these might not be like amazing games, maybe not going into the week, but like the bracket itself. And all three of them delivered. These were three really entertaining games.
And let's quickly talk about them. Alex, you're going to go, I'm going to give you the floor for the first one because I missed the entire first performance, and it was a record-setting performance by Johnny Football, Johnny D'Artes, 47 carries, which is a Prep Classic state record, and it was just a dominant performance by him in a 33-21 win by Vermilion Catholic. It's the third ever state championship for this program. For Coach Prejean. Now, you're here, you saw the whole action, so just give me a recap of what transpired and how the Screaming Eagles were able to finish the season undefeated.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief, but I have a lot to say. First off, 33-21, throw the score out. This is the bar for the best game in state championship weekend going into tomorrow. The other game was the final game of the night was technically closer with the final score, but this was it. Heart-stopping finish at the very end with a pick six, which is why we had a 12-point deficit. This was an all-time classic. This game was fantastic. Ouachita Christian came to play against a juggernaut Vermilion Catholic team, and they made Vermilion Catholic win the game, and they did. So you have to start with Jonathan D'Artes. He's one of the most accomplished players in the history of the state of Louisiana, right? He went into this last week. He broke the one-year-long holding record from Juwan Johnson of career touchdowns, and he was sitting at 175. He had four more today, so the record will stand at 179 for the next player to break. He had a great game, of course. 47 carries is where it begins. And the big thing, like, obviously he's super explosive. Although Ouachita Christian, and this is one of my big takeaways, Ouachita Christian came to play, they kind of kept a lid on him. He had one really big run, but for the most part, it was shorter runs. And that's where he really stood out to me. He was explosive, fast, all of this stuff, tough, obviously. But every time it was 3rd and 2, 2nd and 2, 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. And Ouachita Christian would win in the trenches. He would just find a way, the ball carrier vision, to sneak by the first guy, get the 1 yard, and get the first down by mere inches was unbelievable. His feel for the game with the ball in his hands was so impressive. And this is why I think he's going to be a guy that is going to play at college at some level. I know he's 5'8". I know he's a $175 soaking wet.
Yep.
I get that. But he's going to find a spot because he's just that good. The career touchdown leader in the history of the state of Louisiana is going to find a way to play college football, play on Saturdays. He's the guy. But the reason why Vermilion Catholic won this game, and the reason why they won the state championship, and not the team in this bracket that had Harlan Berry on it, or the team with Dedrick Lasty, or the team with Chad Elsie, is because of the team around him.
Yep. They
were the team. And there were key players. I'm going to mix up this name, but I believe it's Rylan Bessard, the wide receiver. Jiren Bessard, I was very close. Jiren Bessard, the wide receiver, he caught a touchdown. He looked amazing in this game. We'll talk about Caleb Guidry in just 1 second, of course. But the one final player I want to briefly touch on, one of my favorite plays from this game that I think will get forgotten, is John's brother, Ross D'Artes. Yeah. So it is, I'll quickly set the stage. Second quarter, end of the second quarter, Vermilion Catholic's losing 14-13. Ross D'Artes is the punter. And they're about to punt the ball back to Ouachita Christian, who's rolling in the second quarter. They get the ball back, they score a touchdown, They get the ball back at the beginning of the half. They score a touchdown again. All of a sudden, Vermillion Catholic's down by 15. You can't let that happen. And the snap is terrible. It two hops his way to the punter. He has to ground a two hopper like he's a shortstop. Catch the two hopper just to not get the punt blocked. He gets the punt off, and then he draws the roughing the punter penalty, which completely changes the complexion of the game. Jonathan D'Artes gets a second chance. You cannot give Jonathan D'Artes a second chance. You cannot do it. And he gets a second chance. He makes them pay, scores a touchdown right at the end of the half, and they go in leading. They never give the lead up. But Washington Christian doesn't give up, and this team was so good. Jonathan D'Artes threw 2 picks because Washington Christian made 2 great plays. They put a lid on him. They played really, really good offense against a great Vermillion Catholic defense, and that gave us our kind of final sequence where Washington Christian drives the length of the field, and like slowly but surely you're starting to get this feeling on the Vermillion Catholic sideline of Jonathan D'Artes carried the ball 47 times, broke a state record, had 350 yards of all-purpose throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
And is he going to lose while standing on the bench? While watching his defense give up a game-winning drive? This really good elite defense in this bracket give up a game-winning drive to a really good Washington Christian team. Menard, Macon Leonard, the running back for Washington Christian, Gridiron Football Bowl Game All-American commit.
Yep.
He looked awesome.
Yeah.
Vidrine, the quarterback, Luke Vidrine looked great. That entire team was really, really good. They were rolling, and they get to the red zone, and the coach for Volian looked really good. Yeah, the catch to make it a 5-point game and the run was really impressive. Absolutely, he looked great. He had a fumble earlier in the game and redeemed himself. He looked awesome the entire game. But that drive, slowly but surely, Vermillion Catholic starting to lose hope and be like, wait a second, are we going to lose? As we're down 40 to 40 seconds, because Vermillion Catholic had the lead the entire second half, down to 40 seconds, they get to the red zone, the 21-yard line, and it's like a brick wall. And this was something that the coach talked about in the press conference after the game, that this was where Vermillion Catholic, one of their biggest strengths of the entire season, was the red zone defense. They gave up a lot of yards, but they were empty calories. Yeah. They were able to get stops in the red zone. They were very opportunistic. They were very situationally sound. And that is what we saw when the chips were on the table, 1st and 10 on the 21-yard line with 40 seconds to go. Really easy to, very possible to win that game for Washington Christian. Incomplete pass, 4th and 10, desperation time, and Caleb Guidry intercepts the pass, runs it back 90, or I think it was 86 yards.
86 yards,
for a touchdown, which gives us that final score of 33-21. It's deceptive. It was kind of gave me shades of the Tracy Porter pick 6. In the Super Bowl. This isn't their first state championship win. Right. But it was John's last chance. Yeah. The game mattered so much in that way. It was going to be his final game, and to get that win for him and for that entire senior class means so much. So hats off to that entire Vermillion Catholic team. The best team won. Washington Christian, a team I was a little bit worried about after a shaky win against a Chad Elsie list Ascension Catholic team. I was a little bit worried they were going to come in here and get the doors blown off of them, to be honest. They came out here and they made Vermillion Catholic win the game. And they did. The best team in this bracket won, and it's a storybook ending for Jonathan D'Artes, who broke another record on his way out.
Of course. I mean, it was any other way. You couldn't have it any other way. 47 carries, that's a state championship record. Like you said, I thought the Juwan Johnson's record would at least stand for more than a year, but it didn't. 179 touchdowns by Jonathan D'Artes. You said 47 carries. And you go look at it, 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards of offense. But the team did a great job of playing around them. They really did all season long. So it's a team game. There's no I in win, right? So it was a great team win, and Vermillion Catholic undefeated season. I asked Coach Prejean where you stack this team. So I'm not going to go into that conversation just yet, but definitely top 3. He said definitely top 3. For sure.
This is the bar. Yep. This is the bar that tomorrow and Saturday, we talked about it last year, or you talked about it last year with St. James and Union Parish. They were the bar. They were the best game last year. This was the best game of day one, in my opinion, at least. Sterling St. James was really good, but this was the best game. It's going to be a really high bar to clear because it was fantastic.
Well, you might say that was the best game, but we had 2 other good ones for today, everyone. Quickly talk about, the second one, Haynesville and South Plaquemines, 1 versus 2. This South Plaquemines team, we were giving them, we were down them a little bit. We would say what it was, and then Andy's going to tell me hey, South Plaquemine Nation, Andy was about to fire me, basically. That's basically how serious he took me getting this pick wrong. So congratulations to the Hurricanes. But 20-7 is the final score. Looked like, for the longest time, it was 7-6 at halftime. I thought, it was gonna be a low-scoring game. It was, but you gotta be really pleased with the way South Plaquemine's defense really stepped up in this game, only allowing 7 points. This Haynesville team has really been kicking everybody's doors down throughout the entire season. And here comes the South Plaquemine team playing hot. You saw the teams they defeated: Mangum, Logansport at home, and now they pretty much had a de facto home game here in the Superdome, and you see how much that carried over. Lyle Fitt was a star running back on that South Plaquemine's team, and now he won it as a player and as a coach. And one of the star running backs, Jaheim Williams, he was really the story today with 3 touchdowns, I believe, tonight. All three touchdowns, and then also he got an interception on defense, so he did a little bit of everything.
He drove the bus, as we kind of like to say on the Player of the Week show, right? He had one of those kind of stat lines where he didn't actually put up many yards rushing, but he had the touchdown, had a lot of carries. He had the 6 catches for 2 touchdowns. He was the lead receiver. He also had a few tackles, the pick. He was one of their kind of star safeties. And he had 50 kick return yards. Mm-hmm. He did everything. He was absolutely electric everywhere. And, a large part of the reason, we'll talk about the defense. To me, the defense is the big surprise because we knew Jaheim Williams was going to be really good going into this. But part of that is him, right? That they're a very young secondary. He was one of the senior leaders of that young secondary, helping to force a really putrid passing day from Haynesville. 4 for 20 is not good. And that's not because, this is Haynesville.
That's not really their game either.
It's not really their game either. Part of it is, that's a terrible completion percentage. Part of it is they made them throw the ball 20 times, which is a lot more than Haynesville wanted to throw it. Because starting off, and they had an okay rushing day in the first half, but you could kind of see the writing on the wall. They were only averaging 4 yards a carry. They had 80 yards rushing. Not a great day, and they had to start throwing the ball more in the second half. And South Plaquemine's defensive front especially, was unbelievable in this game. You were on the field for this, and that was the big takeaway. Number 9, I forget his first name, but McGee.
Donnell McGee.
Donnell McGee.
Both sides.
He was fantastic. He had the 2 sacks, quarterback hits, tackles for loss. He was unbelievable. And the entire defensive line, it felt like they were living in the backfield.
Yeah.
Isaiah Washington's a great player, really athletic player, great runner of the football, but he was running for his life.
Also returning punts.
Also returning punts, yeah. He was running for his life the entire day because everyone was living in the backfield. They were dominating the trenches against a Haynesville team that was doing that to everyone.
Yeah.
They were crushing everyone, and that's the big story to me, that you had this, we went into the bracket, and everyone's like, okay, is it going to be Haynesville, or is it going to be the field? It wasn't, do you pick a specific team?
Right.
And I laid out the argument. I will, pat myself in the back a little bit here. Even though I picked Haynesville to win the game, I will pat myself in the back a little bit that I was the one that laid out the argument for why the field might win, which was one of these teams might ascend. And we saw this with South Plaquemine, taking advantage of the environment. Home game after home game against teams that had to make ridiculous road trips. They pour it on Mangum, a team that a lot of people thought was going to go to the Dome. They beat Logansport. They beat an East Feliciana team that kind of struggled, but still winning that game is impressive. And then the de facto home game here, where Haynesville has to travel, and the environment was again really impressive for South Plaquemine. And they go out and do it. They looked like the better team. Another part of that is that Haynesville's kind of started struggling a little bit down the stretch. And you had these two kind of conflicting, they started kind of here going into it with the perception of the bracket, and they kind of met in the middle by the end of it, to the point where we all picked Haynesville to win, but it didn't come as this unbelievable shock. It wasn't like jaw hit the floor shock. It was surprising, the result to South Plaquemine's looked like the better team. But they deserved it. They ascended to this state of being a contender, of beating what is the standard in this division, which is Haynesville right now.
Yeah, and South Plaquemines, you go mid-2000s, they were the standard too. They won back-to-back state championships. They were competing for a 3rd straight state championship as well. So they're getting back to when they lost to Haynesville. And, man, this is a great win. Jaheim Williams, what you can say about him overall. 45 rushing yards, 69 receiving yards, 50 return yards, scoring all 3 of their touchdowns. Roger Parker was also their quarterback, was very efficient. Of course, he threw the 2 touchdowns. And Donnell McGee, 2 sacks on the defensive side of the football, only 144 yards. Gotta give praise, gotta give kudos to South Plaquemines. They proved us wrong pretty much all bracket long. So shout out to the Hurricanes. And I know y'all were commenting on their video. I was like, hey, where's our respect? Y'all won the state championship. Y'all have earned our respect for sure. And now let's talk about the final game too. So obviously congratulations for Vermilion Catholic and South Plaquemines. But the finale, you know, was the main event for tonight. It was St. James and it was Sterlington. Two offenses that show that they can get moved down the field two different ways. Sterlington wants to slow the game, wants to slow the tempo with the ground and pound attack, and then St. James, with their very talented freshman quarterback and all these skill position receivers, they like to stretch the ball downfield, get their athletes in space. And really in the first half, we saw why both offensive approaches really work, because there was no punts in the first half, all touchdown drives in the first half.
6 drives and 6 touchdowns. And in the second half, you knew that it was going to be a question of which defense could get like the one stop. And we got a little bit more than that, but it felt like we had 2 different games going on when Sterlington had the ball and when St. James had the ball. It was like when Sterlington had the ball, you're going to be a 6-minute drive. They're going to go for it on 4th down about 8 times and always get it and always fall forward 3 yards in a cloud of dust and give 9 carries to 5 different running backs. That's a ridiculous stat. Shows the depth of an amazing running back room. And then on St. James, it was the high flying express. It was this not it wasn't an air raid, but it's kind of the spirit of that. We're gonna throw the ball. They ran the ball a lot.
They were to the outside. Get plays to the outside.
They were the skill position, the speed. They were the faster team. They weren't the bigger team. They were not the bigger team.
No.
But they were the faster team. They were young. They were they didn't know what, like they were. I don't want to put it. They were too young to know what the risks were of the situation.
Yeah, that's why I thought this team was dangerous. They didn't really fully know what the situation.
Right. There's a phrase I can't remember, but yeah, they weren't scared.
Yeah, they're like too young. They're too dumb to know better.
Yeah,
too young really to know.
Yeah, but that's really dangerous. We saw this with the Packers last year in the NFL, where they were the youngest team to ever win a playoff game because they
didn't know any better.
They didn't know any better. Yeah.
Right.
Why would I be scared? That's exactly what the St. James team felt like. And it felt like a team similar to that Packers team that had this amazing quarterback and wide receiver set. This is one of my big takeaways from this game. First off, both these teams are going to be back next year. Maybe not to the Dome. We'll see if Grant's take is correct. But they're I think the 2 favorites.
They're going to be at least semifinals.
Yeah, they're going to be the 2 favorites going into it, in my opinion. Sure. Although it's a deep bracket. But Juwan Jackson, we talk a lot about the 2027 quarterback class, Elijah Haven and Pop Houston and such. When we start talking about the 2028 class, when we in the spring and in the summer and people start to evaluate that, the conversation has to start with him.
Oh, absolutely.
It has to start with him.
He was like a future star.
He looks like a stud, and he got I think he got a little bit banged up over the course of this game, and this is part of Sterlington's strategy that at each hit we get on you in the first quarter, they're going to start to feel it a bit more in the third and the fourth quarter, and they started to falter a little bit down the stretch, and he looked a little bit hurt, but he was a warrior. The ball placement was unbelievable for a freshman. For a 14-year-old to be able to play like that is really, really good. We saw this with Elijah Haven last year. He's not. I don't know if he's that, because Elijah Haven's the #1 player in the country right now for his class.
Which we'll see tomorrow.
But he's really good. He might be really special, and that leads to the takeaway: this team's not going anywhere. It almost felt like it would have been unfair if they had won the state championship this year.
Yeah.
So they've got 3 more years of this kid.
Oh yeah.
This offense was the best offense in the state in this bracket. I mean, in the state, and all 11 starters are returning.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is returning, which is completely unfair.
It is crazy.
They're gonna score 1,000,000 points on everybody next year. This is gonna be a really fun team to watch. Both of these teams will, because Sterlington's pretty young too.
In Sterlington, they've won their third state championship. Lee Doty was a part of all 3 state championships. He was assistant back in 2016 and the head coach the last 2, 2021 and this year. And it was 35-28 was the final score. It was, and you talk about a tale of 2 different games are going on. It was 2 different games going on in the halves. Yeah, I mean, the first half it was like nobody can stop anybody. Second half, Sterlington, the reason why they won this game 35
35-28 is the adjustments they made in the second half. Giving up only one touchdown, you also forced a turnover on downs, and then obviously the game-clinching interception at the end.
Yeah, that was the difference. Sterlington's offense is awesome. The running backs, the run game, like 350 yards rushing, all that's great. But the defense is what won them the game. And ultimately, the saying goes, defense wins championships. Yep. Even if your offense is what's leading the way, you have to make the adjustments at the right moment to get the key stop, and that's what they did. They held St. James to 7 points in the second half. That is miracle work. That is unbelievable to be able to do. After both of the offenses looked unstoppable, they kind of shut them down.
Yeah.
Which this is a physical team. This is a great team. They lost to St. James last year in the semifinals, and it was a lot of motivation, a lot of that fuel to get back here and to get revenge in that game. Similar to St. James in the semifinals last week beating Union Parish.
Yeah.
That this is part of the reason that I'm a little bit like hesitant to be like, oh, these teams will both be back. Is like there are a lot of really good teams in this bracket.
I thought Calvary Baptist would be back, to be honest, and you saw what happened there. So.
Right. So I mean, Union Parish and Gina and Oak Grove is here now. There are some really good. I mean, the reason why we didn't think Sterlington would be here, and a team that we didn't talk about a lot in the previews, was because they had to run into Oak Grove in the quarterfinals.
Right.
And so that was probably the most shocking result of the bracket. And we see Sterlington win, and it was one of those situations where, you beat the favorite to win the state championship, now you're the favorite, and they end up doing it. They get the job done, and they were on a roll. These are two great teams. We'll see these two teams again, I think, pretty soon. We'll see them a lot. These two teams are awesome, and they gave us a game worth remembering. This is a really good game. Maybe didn't quite measure to the unbelievable standard of this game last year between St. James and Union Parish, but an amazing game nonetheless. Great game. We'll see them both again. All these playmakers, all these stars. Really good game.
Absolutely. Final score 35-28. Hagen Herring, who was the Gridiron Football Player of the Week. He was the MVP here tonight.
When they beat Oak Grove.
When they beat Oak Grove, 115 carries, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. David Hickman, he scored a game-winning touchdown, 10 carries, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And T.J. Birch, who we're about to talk about in a little bit, 9 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown. Candy King Young for St. James had 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. And actually, the 2 MVPs I nominated were actually 2 MVPs I won. So, of all these great offensive players, it was Nolan Zenon for St. James. 23 tackles, including a forced fumble. But overall, great game, 35-28. Really a great full day. Usually, you don't really have this. It's rare to have like a full day of really good games, but we got that. Congratulations once again for Millian Catholic. Congratulations to South Plaquemines and Sterlington for winning day 1, for all winning state championships. Alex, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
This is just super happy to be here. Of course, like I said, this was a blast. We're exhausted, but he'll be back tomorrow. You'll get to see Daryl. Daryl will be talking tomorrow. He's great. He'll be doing great work. Of course, always check out everything here at Gridiron Football. Check me out on Twitter. Check him out on Twitter. Daryl will be here tomorrow to plug himself. He's great. And Saturday, of course, with those games as well. This is a really exciting weekend. This is kind of the Super Bowl of Louisiana high school football in a lot of ways. And I'm excited to be a part of it. This was a blast. Thank you again for having me.
You did a great job, Alex. You got a bright future ahead of you, man. And just keep up the good work. And obviously, you'll be helping us with the bowl game, so we're excited about that. Also, check out Alex's articles. He was able to write the first 2 state championship games, so the Vermilion win and also the South Plaquemines win. I was able to write the finale with Sterlington winning. So check out all of our articles, GridironFootballUSA.com. You also go to our YouTube channel. We have all the highlights and post-game press conferences as well on our YouTube channel. For Alex Allison, I'm James Lejeune. This is the Thursday edition of Ballin in the Boot.